Hey, true believers. So today, we are going to be ordering the most expensive suit possible from PrintCostume.com. For those of you who don't know, PrintCostume is a company that specializes in creating lycra, sub-dyed spandex costumes. Typically, it's Spider-Man is sort of their bread and butter, but they do other superheroes like Batman and Superman. And yeah, today we are going to order the most expensive suit possible from them. Typically, PrintCostume is sort of known as one of the, not the lowest tier that you can go, but sort of, you know, hovering between that middle range to that low end range. It really kind of, you'll see when we get into it, really kind of just depends on you and your budget, which is what's great about PrintCostume. I like them better than Heroes Time. Some people prefer Heroes Time. But because I'm familiar with PrintCostume, because I've ordered so many suits from them, I'm doing this sort of experiment through them. And so this is going to be a sort of series. There's going to be 2 videos. This first one here, I'm going to be ordering the suit, and then in the second video, I'll be showing you guys sort of how it turned out and comparing it to the most expensive suit I own. That is an RPC Studio suit. The RPC Studio is considered sort of one of those higher end companies. Not the highest that you can go. There are other makers like Parallel Life Studios and LFAT, and there's other makers that definitely do higher end, but typically the RPC is kind of up there because it is about double the cost just as like a sort of base level. So I thought it'd be fun to kind of see how the most expensive suit possible from PrintCostume compares to sort of basically the cheapest RPC suit possible. So yeah, buckle in. I'm going to kind of go over it, why I made certain decisions, and everything. And yeah, and you know, I'll sort of cite some of my sources for certain things. But yeah, let's just dive on into it. So here we are, PrintCostume website. So what we're going to do is go over to the print and sew service. If you've done a suit through them, you are very familiar. And so here we are. The starting value is at $75. Now, I should come clean here and say that technically speaking, this is not the most expensive suit that you can make or get from the PrintCostume website, but it is one of them. I'll sort of get into that more, but I'm trying to get the best quality possible and sort of the most expensive suit. Just because PrintCostume does offer a service doesn't mean it's worth it. So like I said, we'll kind of get into it as I'm going on here, and I'll let you kind of know where you could tick that price up a little bit. But ultimately, this will still be sort of the most expensive suit that you can get from them. And it is very specific. So starting here with the pattern. This is going to make basically a world of difference. If you don't start with the right pattern, you're not going to be able to maximize the amount of features that PrintCostume can do for you. So there's a couple suits that you can choose from to do this, but there is actually only one suit that you can do that will guarantee to be the most expensive suit. And that is the What If Zombie Hunter suit. Now, a lot of people will say this is just the Disneyland suit. It is not. There are some key differences that make this the most expensive suit that you can order. And I'm going to go over that stuff with you. So the biggest thing here that makes this the most expensive suit possible, and we'll get into it a little bit later, is the web lines. Like I said, we'll talk more about that when we kind of get to that portion. But like I said, if you want to order the most expensive suit possible from PrintCostume, it has to actually be the Zombie Hunter suit. There are no other options that will allow you to, like I said, maximize all of the possible features that PrintCostume offers. So this is the pattern that we will be going with. I'll just copy and we'll go over here and bam, first step done. So next we're doing, custom. I never do pre-built. I kind of have a weird body shape anyways, so yeah. I'll go ahead and put all my measurements in. I'm not shy. Now, head circumference is very important. What you have to consider here for your head circumference is whether or not you're going to be wearing a face shell under your mask, because that's going to add diameter to your head. I am going to. Typically, I only do that, honestly, because I like having very specific lenses for my suits, and so it ends up actually just being more cost effective to just buy a pair of face shell lenses rather than go to an all-in-one maker like the RPC Studio or somewhere else and have them do a custom pair. Because there's very few makers that do an all-in-one, and there's very few that do it well. Most makers might have like 1 or 2 or 3 sets of specific lenses they don't do custom ones. So yeah, Oracle made, UK, RPC Studio, those are the 2 that I know of that will do custom face shell and lenses. So yeah, but anyway, so that's that feature. I have mine here. This lovely face shell and lenses I got over here from this creator here, but they are currently taking a break, it would seem. So I put this on my face, had my girlfriend measure it, and then that's where I ended up. So that's how I determined my head circumference. I have it written down for all my different shells and lenses because they all do vary. So just keep that in mind, that it's not like a one size fits all. Every shell and lens you are going to want to measure your head circumference. See, 22 is my normal without. For this shell specifically, it is 25.5. So that's what we're going to go with. 14 inches. My wrist is 7.5. Of course, you can round any of this stuff up. Like I said, I like being very specific. I've worked with PrintCostume for a long time now, back when they were still Zentai Zone. So I know how they like to kind of sew stuff. So I typically don't measure. I don't typically need to go up. All right. So this is the first point in which technically you could do a more expensive suit, and that's here with the lenses or the eyes. I'm not doing any because, like I said, just because they offer a feature doesn't necessarily mean they're good at it. And I don't find that their attached lenses or their lenses and face shells are any good. I think they just don't look good. Especially for sort of, you get kind of what you pay for. It's not super expensive, but I'm gonna go no. Like I said, technically you can do a more expensive suit, but if we factor the one that I bought, I think this one ended up being about $130. So technically speaking, again, I'm still on track, we'll say. Next, we're going to select our fabric. Again, this here is where you can technically have a more expensive suit. You have the option between the super fabric and the thick colored fabrics. Traditionally, I always get the super fabrics because if you don't get this, your suit is going to be very thin and easily damaged. It's very easy to damage these suits if you don't get the thicker fabric. So I always spring for it more. Now, they've started offering these colored fabric options, and the movie suits are actually printed on colored spandex. The drawback is they are a thinner, less sturdy fabric. So if you do this option, you do need to be careful still with the suits, because it is, even though it says thick, they're not all that thick. They're not any thicker than the cheap spandex I'm wearing right now for this suit. It will pucker super easy, so just be careful. But the colored fabric does typically look better if you can get it right. Not every suit can use this, so this kind of goes back to what I was saying before, that there's only specific suits that you can that you can make the most expensive suit. For the colored fabric, it has to be, it can't be kind of wild and crazy. I mean, I guess it could, but then they just print it back on white fabric and you kind of waste the money. So again, this is solid, you know, red, blue. It's solid, it's sectioned off. That's kind of what you're wanting when you're trying to, you know, maximize what you can do with the website. So yeah, so I'm going to go color fabrics because again, I'm also trying to make it look really good. And color fabrics don't bleed when you bend. And like I said, just typically speaking, they do look better. But again, they're not as sturdy. So that's up to you. Like I said, you could tick it up another $20 and you'll technically it would be more expensive. Next we're going to add the Kung Fu shoes. Just because upticking it. And I don't want to add the shoes myself. There's a very specific look to this suit, a very seamless look at the foot. So when a suit is like that, I typically like to have whoever's making it install the Kung Fu shoes because I don't really know how to do that, and it's not something I've really dabbled in yet. Shoe size? Zip for entry. I'm going to do U-zip. I always do U-zip. It's easier to get into by yourself, kind of, sometimes. That's completely up to you. For this, I would recommend it just because they're of the back spider, then it doesn't run, you don't have a zipper running straight up it. So again, that's completely up to you. This is what I prefer to do on my suits. So, the first key thing here that is going to make this the most expensive suit that you can order is the leather details. Now, there are very few suits that have these leather details. So already that eliminates a lot of your options. The only suits that have these leather details that they're specifically referring to are the Civil War suit, if you want to count that separately from the Homecoming suit, and then the Zombie Hunter suit, and the Disneyland suit, and maybe the Far From Home suit. I don't know if they use the same strapping from that. So you're limited already to five suits that can utilize this customization. All right, so just keep that in mind. Next, I'm gonna go ankle zip because I really don't love the Kung Fu shoes that PrintCostume uses. I find them super difficult to get into, and since I'm using the thinner fabric, I want to put the least amount of stress as possible on it. So I'm doing the ankle zipper because it'll just make it way easier to get into without risking damage to the suit. Detached gloves? No. Detached mask. This is one that you could add. I'm going to forego it simply because the seam lines aren't as nice when you do it. Typically, I like doing it, especially on like a solid colored suit where there's no lines to match up. I like doing this. But for this one, I'm going to say no. Extra mask, don't need that. Detached feet, don't need that. That is another solution, though, to get around the whole PrintCostume shoes being difficult to get into. If you do the detached feet, that's great. I have a couple suits with detached feet. Typically, I save that, though, for, like I said, solid suit colors, where you don't have to line up web lines and things, because it does kind of bunch then down at the bottom. So, like I said, for this one, if we're trying to aim to make it look as high quality as possible, that's a feature that you're not going to want to do. Never to crotch zippers. Now, I am going to do a forearm zipper. The reason I'm going to do this is because it makes it easier to get into the suit by yourself, and it also just allows you to use your hands when you need them. I will usually go forearm zippers if the suit wears web shooters. If it has web shooters, that zipper is going to end up getting covered anyways, and it ends up looking pretty seamless and not noticeable. And again, if I'm trying to maximize the customization while also balancing appearance and what looks really good, that's a great option. So that's what we're going to do for that. never to cross zipper does not look good. So I'm going to go mask zip, because if you don't do this, you will have to put it all on as one piece, which can look good. That's kind of up to you. I know Tobey Maguire's suit in the original trilogy was like that. It was just one solid piece with the face shell already in it, and he had to pull it over. My Far From Home suit, I designed it that way because I was doing it for charity events, and so it's great for that if you're going to be around a lot of kids, because kids kind of want to rip your mask off or unzip it as soon as they see that zipper. It's like a challenge to them. So if you remove that, you don't got to worry about it. You know what I mean? The worst you got to worry about is your zippers below, but there's no way. You know what I mean? So yeah, I'm going to do it because it just makes it easier to get into. And also, if for some reason the mask doesn't end up fitting, I can chop the thing off, have my girlfriend hem the neckline like we've done on other suits, and then just replace the mask itself, and then bada bing, bada boom. Best of a bad situation. Neck zip, I think, is kind of the same thing. It's just lower. No mask. Next, we're going to go open eye holes, because I don't like to put them in myself. Now, so here's the thing. The feature that I was talking about that makes it so that the zombie hunter suit is like unequivocally irrefutably the most expensive suit that you can order, and that is the puff paint. And the reason that is because unlike the Disneyland, the Far From Home, the Homecoming, Civil War, those suits, they don't have actual web lines to puff paint. They only have beads. They have like a sort of illusion of a web being there, but there's no solid web line to be puff painted. So you can't really utilize that feature. At least as far as I know. I haven't seen anybody do it. But like I said, that's a feature that all of us that they can't use, again, as far as I know. So therefore, so this suit ends up becoming the most expensive suit, because not only does it feature the black leather banding here, not only is, but it has the web lines that those other suits don't have. Also, the pattern, as you can see, is from Arachnid Chamber, or Breaker on Instagram. And so the last feature here that we are going to put in is the screen printing emblems. The reason that I'm going to do that is because if you don't do that, and you have either like a sort of intricate spider like this where it has like the really thin lines, or you have like a red spider or like a different colored spider on like say a blue or something, they can't color print that. They can't print red onto blue and not have it look like wonky. So what'll end up happening, and this happened on my Disneyland suit, that's how I came to this realization, is they'll just end up printing this on sort of thin white spandex, and then this will end up getting printed on the red. And so in order to circumvent that, what you're going to want to do is have these emblems screen printed, because then that's no longer an issue, because they're just going to get printed on top of another material. That ends up solving sort of that problem. The other thing to consider if you're going to be doing the colored fabrics is you want it sort of to be solid. You can do muscle shading, like you see this has some subtle muscle shading, but what I mean is you don't want any emblems like looking embossed. Otherwise, when they get printed, or anything looking sort of like embossed or like a weird material sort of thing, it'll end up looking really wonky and like washed out and just not right. Again, that happened to me in my Disneyland suit because I wasn't thinking. I thought it was all solid, but Gunhead actually added shading to make this part sort of look embossed. So when you look at my suit, it's actually it's really dark in some places, but then kind of fades into a red color because of that embossing. So that's just another thing to consider. And that's it. That's the whole suit. So We will add that to cart and then take a look at that final tally. It ends up being $268. Now, here's the thing though. What you can do is you can use a discount code for like 15% off, and that'll drop it to about $245. I personally, I have to come clean. I did already order the suit. I'm sorry. For privacy reasons, I already ordered it like an hour ago. So, sorry, but that price is right. I ended up using Gaston Spidey's code. It's just Gaston15. You can also use Spidey Woo. I think he still has a code. Scarlet Spider 117 or Spectacular Scarlet Spider 117 still has one. I think his name is, or I don't know. You can check his Instagram. I know he has it. And that'll knock 15% off. It ends up being about $50. So it ends up being total $245 for the full thing. Yeah. So that's that, guys. The suit is ordered, and now we have to play the waiting game. Yeah, that's kind of it. So thanks for coming and hanging out for this this sort of video one, coming and hanging out. I'm so used to streaming. So like I said, this is video 1 of 2. The next video will be, in a couple months once I get it, and we'll actually take a look at it and see if it's worth the money and see how it compares to a sort of, expensive suit or a higher end costume. Until then, guys, it is getting smoldering hot in this last stand jacket, and the last thing I want to do is fill it with my sweat. So that's gonna be it for me. Like I said, in a couple months, when the suit gets here, I'll do an unboxing, and we'll do, we'll take an actual look at it, and then we'll compare it to the RPC Studio suit. So, yeah. I hope this was kind of informational for you guys, and if you were kind of wanting to know, hey, I wonder how expensive can you really make a PrintCostume super, or how good is the quality really? Like, how good can you make it look? We're gonna find out together. So, like I said, subscribe, hit the bell icon, I guess, if you wanna see the follow up, and we can answer that question together. Of, is it really worth the money? Is the quality really there? How does it compare? And yeah, and that's gonna be it for me. So see you guys in a couple months.